Hello, Gary.
Hello, Guy.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's occurred to me with Simon Le Bon that there's a lot of cross-referencing that our listeners can do by listening to other episodes of our podcast.
Yeah, and in fact, if we'd been clever, we could have thought about that before and sort of put in lots of little Easter eggs. But I know I haven't.
Little clips, you mean?
So yeah, or
well,
yeah.
I think it's
that. But no, you're right. There are things we can draw on from what John said.
I think it's better if people go back and compare and contrast. You know, it was a bit like when we had Kurt on one week, and you know
yeah, that's true.
Ronan on the another week. But so we've had John Taylor on before, which I re-listened to actually just this morning, which was I thought John was very erudite. It'd be interesting.
John was incredibly erudite. Well, of course he was. He's the bass player.
And of course we had the new guitarist on a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. Yeah, we did. Yeah, who I must say, having I've been really enjoying the new album. He certainly did bring something to the party, but we'll obviously talk about that.
I can't remember his fucking name. Tell me his name.
Zeppo, Graham Coxon.
Right. Okay. I'll edit this in.
Leave that in.
I'll edit this in. Of course, we're talking about Graham Coxon.
Of course we are.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I want to know from Simon's point of view what it was like getting Graham, you know, a 90s icon, to come in and play on his record.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to talk about.
There really is. And don't forget, it's another Spandau Duran face-off.
One day we're going to keep getting Duran members on until I get the punch up I so desire.
So we may have to mention that episode of Pop Quiz.
Oh, yes.
Welcome to the Rockonteurs.
Okay, guys, I'm ready.
This was great, guys. It's so great to talk to two guys that have done this.
Well, it's a big tune for sure. I actually wrote that originally for Tina Turner.
Of course, I had gone and found Joni Mitchell down in Florida and brought her back.
You know, what people forget about Bowie is that he was such a kind man.
I've listened to a few of them and they've been really good, man. I'm sitting in the back of the car coming into London. They're brilliant.
I know you're musicians, but you've been more professional than a lot of journalists.
Remember me? I'm in a band now. It's called Roxy Music.
You know this thing about the 10,000 hours of experience?
Oh, yeah.
Get good at something. When we recorded Arnold Lane, we'd done about 50 hours.
The Rockonteurs podcast with Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Simon. Hi, fellas. Apologies for being so late, but it was a late call. I had to go and pick up my grandson from school.
No problem. How sweet.
What a good and considerate grandfather you are, Simon.
I am very good and considerate.
And you've got a nice microphone there, and it looks very pro.
I have, yeah. I've got a radio show.
Yeah,
I've got a radio show.
That.
So
Whoosh.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where is it? It's on Sirius.
It's Sirius XM. It's an hour show every week. It's all new music, actually. All new. I like alternative bands. I like alternative artists, a little bit of R&B and stuff as well. But lots of great stuff. You know, bands like Dry Cleaning?
No.
You know, but do you know about Dry Cleaning?
No, I don't know. No, I know about Dry Cleaning.
Check out Dry Cleaning. They're an amazing band, spoken word artists. Have you heard Idols?
Yes.
Things like, have you heard of Idols?
Yes, Idols.
It's quite a lot of post-punk or punky stuff. They call it post-punk now, but actually it's punk.
Fontaines from Belfast.
What we are is post-punk.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny because, like, on Wikipedia, Duran Duran are down as new wave, which is the kind of, in America, that's their blanket thing, isn't it? From anything that was.
But that's good that you get to listen to all new music because of the show.
Yes, I mean, it started off during the very beginning of lockdown, actually. And then I had a little bit of a sort of a contretemps with my daughter Tallulah, because I came downstairs and she was listening. She was listening to Radio 6. And I went, oh God, I can't have this on my breakfast time. I've got to put Radio 4 on.
Sounds like our house.
Quite.
And so I changed, and she went, Dad, she says, call yourself a musician. You don't even like music, especially new bands. I thought, wow. I thought, oh God. And you know what? I thought that thing, you know, when you're in a taxi after the studio, you spent sort of 8 to 12 hours in the studio, 3 if you're me, and you get into the taxi, and taxi driver, 4 o'clock in the morning, taxi driver goes, oh, what channel, what music do you want to listen to? And you go, you know what? like maybe have a little bit of quiet now. I've been surrounded by music all day long. And that kind of sets in, and you end up in a situation where the only music you're listening to is what you're working on currently and what got you into a band in the first place. Yeah. And I thought, she's right. I don't like music. So I made a big effort and started listening to stuff. And at the same time, my mate Nick Wood in Tokyo said, you know, Nick Wood, Sin Productions, Sin Music. Nick said, we need to do something during COVID. Let's put together a playlist. So I started. I thought, that's great, because I'm just getting into new music. And then a couple of weeks later, Wendy Laister, our manager, she calls up and she says, "Oh, we've got to do something, Charlie. You've got John's doing a bass tutorial, Roger's doing a drum tutorial, Nick's doing his art thing.
Don't smirk, guy.
What can you do? What can you do? And I thought, well, I'm not going to do a vocal tutorial. I said, I'll put together a radio show.
To laugh there, but I just imagine people doing that now, can't you? People so desperate to get on.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, Simon, I've heard your vocal warm-up, and it's very, very good. I think that would be very helpful to
my
people.
Vocal warm-up? Do you mean my...
I heard your vocal warm-up when we all played together at that wedding. And
yes.
And you did a really, really good... I remember thinking, because it wasn't
Did I have a little set of ear things in? Because I lost my voice completely and utterly in 2003.
Oh, that's right. You had to cancel a tour, didn't you?
We cancelled the whole tour.
Yeah,
still trying to get the money out of the insurers, and I part of my rehabilitation was going to see a voice therapist who in London called Ruth Epstein. She is amazing. She's this wonderful sort of Eastern European Jewish lady who's and she gave me this warm-up session, and which I put onto my all of my devices actually, and I stick the earphones in, and there's me going, what's it, sort of, and all that stuff.
Did you have nodules?
Yeah, but there was a bluesy scale thing as well, which was really good. It was really
that's
nice.
Like when I've done the warm up, I just start trying to riff to keep it warm, riffing on. Yeah, I like.
Because actually, Simon, it's interesting because people don't really think, they don't care as much for singers, in that, a band says, let's get back together. We haven't played for so many years, it's our 40th anniversary or whatever it might be. And the bass player gets his bass out and finds the riffs again, same with the guitar player. But the fear that the singer has to find that voice, to sing those songs that he sang and wrote as a young man, that's far more terrifying.
It is. It would be, and it would be particularly so if you hadn't done it for a while. But I haven't stopped. I have not stopped at any point. So there's not been a week that's gone by without me singing. And I know that I have to stretch myself. And as we approach, a show when we haven't been on tour for 6 months, or sometimes it's longer. Well, it was after lockdown, of course. It was a very long time. I kind of pace myself, and I kind of walk. I get myself stronger and stronger, and I don't try and hit the high notes in Wild Boys at the beginning of the rehearsal, at the beginning of getting ready for it. That's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the new album, because we had Graham Coxon on here this show about 3 weeks ago. What a lovely man he is. And when we said, how come Duran Duran, he just couldn't believe we even had that question. He was so enthusiastic. He was a fan, and he was being asked to play in a posh band. And I loved it because I watched your bit on the BBC when you did you played together with him, and he actually wore a very posh Duran style jacket for the show, didn't he?
He did, didn't he? Well, he's a smart guy. It was, for us, it was magnificent that he said he'd come and do it, but we had no idea of what we were going to get until he started playing, and that was what really blew our barn doors off.
He did really, really bring. I must say, because I'm loving the album, and he really brought something to the party, didn't he?
I know. I mean, he's got this thing. He doesn't want to play anything that's ever been played before. He's really he's determined to come up with new riffs and new sounds, and that is the most wonderful thing to have in your creative output, because and we had to he raised the game and we had to come up to it. You know what it's like when you're working on music as a band, and when you're all trying, you're all kind of writing together. One person takes it up, and then somebody else comes up to that level, then somebody else comes and takes it a bit further, and then everybody has to go to that.
Were you careful?
He said about the writing process, he said he was amazed and impressed about how there was literally no avenue left unexplored.
But
every move
did he tread carefully in that he didn't want to feel, oh, I'm writing this, that you guys are the composers and I'm just going to find whatever I need to find to suit your song?
I think he started off like that, but I think after a while he just wanted to play the best guitar he could play, and that in its way that was what we really wanted, and then he became a really full part of the whole writing setup.
Because I actually think he's very similar to Andy in some ways, in that Andy had this very choppy,
more brusque
but
version.
Andy had this sort of choppy staccato style that was a combination of Niall and Angus Young, and
exactly. Exactly, but he also had a bit of sort of like he had a little bit of Jimi Hendrix and a little bit Jimmy Page.
But Graham has that. He has that choppy, odd kind of rhythmic thing, and I think that suits what you do, because Duran sound has always been trying to fit in electronica with rock.
Yeah.
But on the album, Tommy, talking about collaborators, you had some major, I don't know if these are mass box ticks for you, but like Giorgio Moroder and Mike Garson?
Yeah, I mean, those,
come on.
So those two are ones that we've wanted to have some kind of connection with for years and years and years, but the opportunity just never arose. I mean, I met Mike at a Smashing Pumpkins gig that he did way back, and I went up and sang Night Boat with Billy in the band. So we did so, and I met Mike at that point, and that was over 20 years ago, and it took this long for it to kind of to fall into place. Giorgio Moroder is somebody we should have worked with years ago, but we were just never in the same town and in the same phase of of our careers.
Yeah, and I mean he's doing real Giorgio Moroder doing Giorgio Moroder, isn't he? I mean, it's brilliant. It's like
wonderful,
spotted for
but
100 yards.
those guys
Absolutely.
were both massive influences on us as young men, weren't they? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
Giorgio, I can see a lot more in what you did in the 80s, but for me, Garson's piano on that Aladdin Sane album, I'll never forget how that made me feel. I mean, it was one of the most emotional pieces of music I'd ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Well,
if wasn't Love to Love You Baby the first thing that you played at the Rum Runner?
Yeah. So the very first show that I fronted Duran Duran for on the 16th of July 1980. I still have the ticket.
You had to buy a ticket?
You had to get a ticket. You had to get a ticket.
We had to pay to get in the stage, but no, I kept one. I kept one as a memento. And
that's interesting. Is that because you knew that it was coming and this would be the date?
Well, I just like collecting little bits of paper, actually. Generally, plastic things. Yeah. And the first song that came out of the band with me as a front man was I Feel Love.
I Feel Love. So not Love to Love You Baby. What the hell am I thinking?
Exactly. I Feel Love.
Wow. I Feel Love. That's what I meant.
Wow.
I thought that was a bit weird. I thought
that was a bit weird,
wasn't
it?
In it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know why I thought that.
That is amazing.
It's not
no, because I'd never realised.
It's so good. It's so good.
Hey, watch it. You haven't done a warm up.
The major to minor. The major to minor on that.
He hasn't done a warm up yet. Oh, Simon, we're going to have to go back to those moments, though. Of you joining the band. But before then, let's talk about you growing up. Well, I just mentioned Mike Garson and listening to Aladdin Sane. Right. But what was the music that was turning you on as a kid? First of all.
Well, I mean, the first thing I really got. I mean, I remember hearing "She Loves You," when I was 5 years old, thinking, oh my God, what's this? But then I grew up in a house that was really full of classical music. And I went and performed in festivals, singing festivals and things, competitions. And I did poetry.
Was that solo or was that choral?
Solo. And then I joined a choir. I joined a choir in when I was 11. But the thing which grabbed me first was T-Rex.
Yeah.
The song.
Yeah,
Ride
me
a
too.
White
Me
Swan.
too.
In fact, that was Tyrannosaurus Rex. They weren't T-Rex at that point. And it was that song. I just loved it. I was crazy about it. And then that kind of, then after that it was, David Bowie. And David Bowie, and my entry album to David Bowie really was Aladdin Sane, which was the great Mike Garson record. So whenever I think of Mike Garson, I think of diddling ding.
Yeah.
And then the opening of
the end of time,
Saturday.
Yeah.
So I was obsessed with David Bowie. I used to draw pictures of David Bowie on my school exercise books instead of doing the schoolwork I was supposed to do. So I had lots of great pictures of David Bowie wearing his high-heeled, his platform shoes with the palm trees on, the one with the big kind of sun on the front of his forehead, and then there's and trying to get that kind of that zigzag thing exactly right over the shaved brow. I spent hours and hours and hours doing that. So when it came to physics exams and maths exams and geography, I was thinking, I don't know any of the answers to this stuff because what I've been doing. Can I just do a bit of spiky orange hair instead?
Yeah. Can I demonstrate Hooke's law using the the lightning flash from a
No, he was better with Dr. Hook's law. I think he could have done probably. But what is it about Bowie? In a way, for all of us, it wasn't just the music, was it? Obviously it was entwined. But it was this otherworldliness. It was this escapism. It was this outrage. It was all of the lines that for a pubescent boy were being blurred by this creature, and he was ours. He didn't belong to anyone older than us.
Yeah, I loved the kind of the alienness of him. He's the spaceman, the alien. It wasn't a sex appeal thing for me, or if it was, I wasn't recognizing it as such. So yeah, he was one.
And you met
nerds
him, obviously, Simon.
You must have. But yes, I met him a lot because we were on tour together.
That's right. I remember coming to see that in Toronto. That's when you came to see us in Toronto when we were rehearsing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
In '87. Yeah.
And how was that being on tour with David?
It was wonderful, and it was a little bit annoying as well. It was great because we were on tour with David Bowie. It was supposed to be sort of equal top billing, but you pretty soon realised that it wasn't.
What album?
It was his
the
album.
Glass Spider tour.
The Glass Spider tour.
So that was that the Tonight album?
Well, it was the one after Let's Dance,
Tonight.
Wasn't it? It was
No,
87.
I think it was one after the one after.
One after that.
Yeah, which has Never Let Me Down.
People are screaming at their telephones or radios now, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but you see, weirdly though, because that it was a different kind of David Bowie to the one that I was idolising.
Well, it's what he calls his Phil Collins period, isn't it?
That's very funny.
Yeah.
So it was. But it was still David Bowie. The thing is that his record company had bought up the first 7 rows of every auditorium, and David had a meet and greet while we were on stage. So the first 7 rows of all the auditoriums we played were empty. So we had to get over that, which was not so easy. But we hung out with him quite a bit, and he I remember once we were at the Canal Bar in New York, and we sat down for dinner. And we're sitting there, and David's sitting next to me, and he got really drunk, and he managed to pour his red wine into my pasta. I went, oh, David, and he goes, "What? Do you want to fight? Come on, let's have it out." He got all boxy. I think he was kind of starting to get into the boxing.
Oh my God!
Come on.
Did you?
Outside.
And did you?
No, but you know how times change like that. It's like when you're young and you join the Labour Party and it's very exciting and different and exotic, and then when you finally get to meet anyone in the Labour Party, it's the Blair years, and
Right.
Let's Dance is kind of Bowie's Blair years.
Not the Michael Foot years.
Yeah, exactly.
but
Not the Harold
not the
Wilson
Harold-
years.
But these are the moments when we pinch ourselves, when we're on par with our heroes, and he would have been looking up to you.
I never thought he would be. No, I don't think so.
And then-
I don't think so. I don't know. I was so in awe. I was ridiculous.
Did he join you on stage at any point? Did
No.
you do?
No, we didn't do anything together.
Simon, you wanted to be an actor. Did you want to be an actor? You did drama.
I did. No, I did. I was determined to be an actor. That was the thing that was going on. I studied drama pretty much from the age of 5 until 18. Music started to distract me, and I ended up sort of wanting to go down the pub with my punk mates and sort of missing drama classes, and I got spotted and I got told off, And I thought, and then I still carried on, but I got I auditioned for Central School of Drama, and I got rejected after the second round, and I was so shocked by the rejection. I thought I'd breeze it. I did, and that kind of made me think, well, maybe you're not as good as.
Do you remember what your audition piece was?
Oh God, no, absolutely no. I can't remember. I did so many of those things, and then I decided, and then I went to university. I went to University of Birmingham, and I kept getting shoved out of roles into set design and into wardrobe, and you know what I mean, and into sort of
that wasn't why you were there.
Stuff. I thought they don't want me to act. There's me thinking I was sort of like a, Simon Olivia Le Bon. And actually it was, I was kind of going down a different road. And then I met the band, and suddenly I thought acting is all this struggle, all this rejection, just to work, do somebody else's words, just to be somebody else that, has been designed, and you're just serving that. And here's me with my chance to go on stage now with my own.
No,
script.
you're absolutely right, because acting is interpretive, where what you've done for all of your career is not that at all.
And so, Simon, wait, because there's a thing that John said when we had him on, which is that when you turned up, you had this notebook, you had this book of lyrics, which was just the golden thing. He said, that's the mother lode. That's what everyone in a band is looking for, the bloke with the words,
It's in this room somewhere, but I'd look at it. I'll never find it anywhere.
Oh, is that your accounts behind?
No.
Maybe you hid it when
Yasmin's photographs. Actually.
Did it get hidden and lost when the Batman came? Is that what happened? In a scurry, in a moment of papers flying.
No, the book is around somewhere. It's in this room. But I mean, honestly, you just want to see the.
Along with all your bus tickets.
Look at the fucking mess in here. It's just ridiculous.
I can't look at that. My OCD is.
That's good.
You can't. Don't look at it. Look at your lovely minimal studio with a picture down in the corner and a guitar growing out of your head. I mean, honestly.
Simon, before we come on, he always has a go at me about my room. I always have to move a couple of things.
It's Mark and Mickey.
Oh, wow.
That's the picture in the corner. Anyway, but you turned up with this book, and you turned up with, is it true, leopard skin trousers?
Yeah, the first time I met the band, the second time, it was a pair of faded, they originally kind of maroon leopard skin, with black leopard skin spots on. But they'd actually kind of got washed a few times, and they'd faded to pink.
The introduction was your girlfriend, wasn't it? Who was working at the Ram Runner, or was it not?
Well, it was it was a girl. It was a girlfriend who moved up to. We'd kind of broken up. We got together. We broke up. Then she came to Birmingham. We lived together there, and then we broke up. And Fiona Kemp, lovely girl.
Any relation?
No relation. I don't think. No relation.
No, I don't think so. No. So she suddenly turned up at the bedsit that I had in Moseley and said, I've met this band and they're looking for a singer. I think you should audition for them. And I thought I was going to get a sympathy fuck, but It wasn't to be.
Instead, you had to settle for joining Duran Duran.
I had to settle for joining Duran Duran, yes. And I went along, and it was right. You're right. I met them. We got on. We looked like we could be in the same band because we had the same sort of fashion sense. And I had this big book of lyrics. I mean, with about 30 songs, 30 bits of writing in there, and that's what they really wanted because they had one song that they'd written lyrics to. It was called "Secret Success," and they had some titles like "Girls on Film," and all the rest of it sort of just fell into place.
But were these lyrics or poetry?
It was some of it was lyrics, songs that I'd been in the band before. I had two, but the first band I was in. Well, actually, the first band, it was called Bolo, as in gatto.
Not Bolo as in bollocks, then.
Well, exactly. We never played any shows. We just rehearsed a bit. And the second band was called Dog Days, and we played one show, and it was myself, Pete Johns on bass, Olivia Bizzardi, who worked for Sony Music later on drums. Alan St. Clair, who played with Spear of Destiny, he was on guitar. Carol on keyboards.
Carol.
No, I do know. I know Carol's surname. It's just gone right out of my head. Carol Isaacs, and me on the microphone. And we rehearsed in Ruislip, and we played one show at Harrow Tech. I was at art school at the time. I was there at Harrow Art School. And we played on the floor, not on the stage, because the main band Supercharge wouldn't let us share their
What, the
stage
funk band?
The funk band Supercharge.
With was it Lol Coxhill was the sax player in them? I think. Yeah.
I don't know what his name was.
The guy went and played for all the punk bands.
But anyway, we played our support set. We were supposed to be on for half an hour. We went over our deadline. They pulled the plug. We carried on unamplified. With me, all you could hear was me screaming and the drums going. And then we finally went, right, we're all going down the pub. Half the audience left with us, and as we walked out, we heard the MC go, "Thank you, dog shit."
Dog shit have left the
we
building.
We had songs like Permissive
Bolo
Society
featuring dog shit?
Only Room for Robots.
Oh, fantastic. But had you been going to the Rum Runner?
Not at that point. That was before I went to Birmingham. That was when I was about sort of 18. Yeah,
because the Rum Runner was the club. It was the sort of the Bowie night blitz club of.
Yes, it was. It
was also like the Stringfellows and everything, wasn't it? It had a much broader remit.
Liberties.
Didn't it?
No, that was Liberties.
Okay.
You're getting no. It was never like Stringfellows.
Oh, okay. Well, I just thought it was more of a mainstream sort of place, which had a cool night.
Well, no, it wasn't. It was a real music place. The Rum Runner was. I mean, there was soul and funk night, and there was on Friday nights what was called Bowie Roxy night, and that was the New Romantic night, and that was the night that everybody used to come to. That was the night that you guys came to, Gary.
Yeah.
It was a Friday night. You came after the Botanical Gardens show.
That's right.
Which I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was a fantastic show.
So, because I didn't really know you guys then, and we'd done Top of the Pops, and we came up with our London entourage and played in Birmingham, and I think we were quite, we knew there was a big scene up there because there was that scene with Carn and Bell, that shot with Carn and Bell.
Yes, right, Jane Carn and Patti Bell,
which had all their new, wild clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we knew that we had to go there first, Birmingham, and there was this other band there, and we ended up going back to, I think it might have been Paul Barrow's flat.
I think you stayed at Margaret's house.
Really.
Margaret was.
That sounded so loaded. You stayed at Margaret's house.
No, there's a great rumour. Okay. Margaret was she was the secretary of the Barrow brothers, and she worked in the office at the Rum Runner. I think the story was that all of you guys went and stayed there that night, and somebody had sex with her. Which I thought was, which I have to say is perfect. If you're thinking about sort of 20-year-olds in the beginnings of the 80s, is perfectly normal. You know, there's a single girl and a bunch of guys. One of them's going to have sex with her.
Yeah, but I swear,
it's normal, right?
I ended up on the floor with who I think, and I'm sure now because we've had conversations about it, was Nick.
So you ended up on the floor. Somebody was on the sofa, and somebody else was in Margaret.
I know. And Nick telling me that you guys had a band, you know, and you were, you know, coming from a similar background. Of course, I thought nothing of it then, not realizing that we would cross each other's paths for the next 10 years at least and more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we didn't, but I think you guys were sort of, I don't know, you guys were you were a lot more important, and we were determined to be as important as you guys. That's how it felt at the time. So we were determined, and we knew we were going to make it. But I don't think you guys were ever kind of, you know, and in the same way as we would never kind of meet young bands and think, oh, they're going to be big one day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just meet other bands. And
but it was a
you've
scene.
got so much on your plate. You've got so much on your plate. You don't see any. There's no rivalry. There's none of that stuff going on. It's sort of, it's just, you know, we're all in this, and we're all struggling to keep our heads above the water.
Because
what was exciting. Sorry, guy.
Oh no, well, yeah, it wasn't that. But no, I was just saying, because when you first got together with the lads, you didn't actually have that new romantic thing to hang your hat on, did you? Did you not really?
No,
you were finding what it was going to be.
Absolutely, and we read the article in the NME, and the word and the phrase "new romantic" was in that article, and I thought I like that, and I put it into the lyric of Planet Earth. That's right. Like some new romantic looking for the TV sound, and as soon as I did that, it put us into the whole scene.
The TV sound, how prophetic was that? Because you didn't know what was coming around the corner, because the great medium for all of us, which took us all by surprise, because not one of us at that point thought we had to make videos in our career.
Really. Absolutely. Yeah.
That was all we thought was, you know, when I talk to journalists, make great records and look good on stage, you know, and what was to come. But I think the excitement of being part of a scene, and that there was rumour, and we already knew of the Human League up in Sheffield and what they were doing, and Simple Minds as well. You know, there was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, well, I often wonder, because there's so many bands who then became part of the same sort of school, but at the time they weren't, because Simple Minds came out of you know, they started as a punk band, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I think if you go back to the very early, sort of 1980 and 81. 1980, really. I just think of what was on the dance floor, what music was being played on Bowie Roxy night, Friday night at the Rum Runner, and it was Bowie, it was Roxy, it was
Kraftwerk, perhaps.
No. Mick Ronson,
right?
Only after dark. The Passenger. Iggy Pop, and you know, Simple Minds.
Is that Travel? Is that the one from Empire and Dance?
No, it's it's called Changeling.
Changeling, yeah.
And then we had then you started to get the sort of the stuff, the new romantic stuff that came from London, like Visage was getting played, you guys, and Ronnie.
Do you remember Ronnie, the beautiful, tall French model?
She did a cover of If You Want Me to Stay, didn't she?
That's right.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around someday.
Because there was this kind of
very, very French, right?
Very, very good French.
But he's right. And I think what turned us onto that kind of feel was Cabaret had come out, the movie Cabaret. I was really reminded of this recently because I went to see the play that's on in London. And how that movie influenced a lot of what we were doing, you know, that sort of Weimar Republic feel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the line, wasn't it? Something about scanning maps of. Somebody said that the New Romantics, they'll be there on a Saturday afternoon, running up new pairs of jodhpurs and scanning maps of Germany for snappy song titles.
Yes. When you signed your record deal, EMI, I mean, that was a big one, and you landed that. John told us you landed that with only 7 songs in your armoury.
Well, Well, there 7 songs ready to record, but there was also the whole album, the whole Rio album that we were playing. We were playing songs that would become.
Oh, you already
Rio,
had those songs.
and they were. See, but we didn't have difficult second album syndrome. We had difficult third album syndrome.
I just wanted to talk about Colin Thurston.
Oh, right,
who produced that album, and what an important guy he was in the transition between post-punk and the 80s sound, because he did Magazine, hadn't he? And
he was the engineer on Station to Station.
Oh, yes.
That's right. Yeah. He'd done Bowie.
That's what we were impressed by. And he really was such an important part of our sound. The things he did, like, gated snare drum, and then playing back the snare drum through a microphone and recording what happens to the snare when you play the actual track back through the. It sounds weird, doesn't it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Little tricks like that, and we did tape phasing.
Oh, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all these real old.
It sounds great, that album, though.
I was going to say, I was listening this morning. It stands up so well. I mean, it's really like it's as exciting as it was then. Do you know what I mean? It hasn't dulled at all. It's fantastic.
Planet Earth, yeah, absolutely. It was.
Yeah,
it's a great garage record, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like one of the, I like to think, to cut long story short, is partly in there, but You Really Got Me, My Generation, I mean, Anarchy in the UK.
Yeah.
There are certain songs that define a youth culture. Planet Earth is one of those moments.
I'll take that as a compliment. Not what a nice list to be on.
I'll never forget that closing shot of the video of you jumping off the edge.
But let's talk
and he's gone.
Yeah.
And that's the end of Duran Duran.
Well, yeah, for all the flat earthers.
But it is the video, isn't it? The videos of everything. I mean, it's all of us. I mean, I mentioned this earlier about the surprise that the importance of videos had. And of course, you did this, you had the nerve, and I remember being so jealous that you'd done the Girls on Film with Godley and Craig. We had Lol on here a while ago.
Yeah.
How is he?
He was great. He was lovely when we spoke to him.
Oh, good.
That was a while back.
Good.
Beavering away with Trevor Horn.
Yeah. It's so sweet. They just sit around the studio all day telling each other stories. It's just adorable.
But but I mean, let's just talk about that whole MTV thing, because really you nailed it with MTV.
Right.
And
thank you.
And I think all of us, that was the train that we all had to get on to do well in the States. And what's funny is that MTV comes along in America and decides to focus its attention on the UK.
Yeah, I think there was this kind of wave of new music also coming out of the UK at the time. America just wasn't really doing anything that was anywhere near as free and experimental. I mean, they had Our Daughter's Wedding, and that was about it. So I think a really important part of that, I think, was Paul and Michael Barrow. Paul in particular,
the managers who managed you.
Yeah, they were. He had a real vision, and I think he sort of, in the back of his mind, wanted to be a film director at that point, which he sort of, or a film producer. Which
they did, didn't they? They went on.
And that was the beginning of it. And he went traveling. He went to Machu Picchu and went to Sri Lanka, and he was on boats and things, and that you can really trace the sort of the locations of a lot of those videos back to him. So it's definitely the Sri Lankan video, definitely the Antigua, Rio, and.
Didn't you all happen to be on holiday in Antigua at the time?
It was no, it didn't quite work out like that. I mean, that's one version of it. I know that we were on our way from I think it was from we finished the album, the Rio album, in London. Nick stayed on to mix it with Colin. We flew to Sri Lanka to shoot the videos there. Nick joined us and we shot. That's the story of Nick turning up in Colombo Airport wearing a blue.
Oh yeah,
a blue
leather
sort of Weimar Republic sort of suit. Was it Wehrmacht? But that's kind of thing that you can't talk about now. And and we did the videos there, and something was happening. You could feel there's this excitement in the video. I remember when we were shooting the stuff for Save a Prayer on the beach down near Gaul, and thinking there's something. This is amazing. There's a real feeling. There's something very special. I've never seen anything like this before with music. So from that video shoot, we got on an airplane and flew to Australia. By the time we got to Australia, we were world rock stars. Mm-hmm. We'd become massive. Almost, it felt like it was while we were in the air. We landed, and we were proper stars in Australia. And then we did some shows there, and they were amazing. And then we had to go to America, and they said, "Can you go to America via Antigua, because we need to shoot some more video." And we did. If they said go to Antigua to shoot video, we went, okay, fine. So we went to Antigua, shot the video, and we stayed on there for the holiday.
And was Russell Mulcahy, the director, was he following you around?
He sort of was. I mean, but he was. Yeah, he'd done the video for Vienna for Ultravox before us. There's a band.
He worked with us. We did. He did Musclebound with us. He did a few videos for us.
Right, and he was, and he suddenly became a very, very important part of not just our setup, but I think one of the most important video directors in the world at that time.
He was the Spielberg, wasn't he, of that world? Really?
Yeah, I mean his as video exploded with MTV, and as you exploded, as we exploded, so did Russell.
I think what those videos, those international flavoured videos, exotic places that you were travelling to, what they expressed to everyone was that you were a global band. They were they were sending postcards from the front back home,
and the front was beautiful.
So there was aspirational. In
the same way as sort of a generation before, it would have been James Bond films that did that showed people these exotic.
Yeah. And of course, that was our medium of communication. Mm-hmm. That said something about our lifestyle. In the same way bands now have to be on TikTok to show whatever they're doing at any given time. You could still, retain mystique and be in these wonderful places. But I think there was something else where your music seemed to match the visuals too, because that album, that
had about Rio.
An exotic Rio. It had an exotic feel to it.
You're right.
It's called
It had
Rio.
the best qualities. But it had the sound of it. Where it had a lushness to it at times. That particular song, Save a Prayer, and that was akin to the later part of Roxy Music style.
Yes,
which
sort of the Avalon kind of stuff. There was. I think you're right. I think we wanted. Well, John came up with the title Rio. I think he was thinking. He's looking at Roxy's Fiesta and thinking, what's like that? What's like that? And he's got Carnival. No, not quite. It's a bit fairground, isn't it?
Fate.
Rio. And he's the one who said, I think we should have a song called Rio. I went, yep, I think I can write that. And we took an existing song, which is at the time called Amy a Go-Go, and just
Amy a Go-Go.
No, we never had that. That was my vocal melody. That was my vocal melody. I came up with that. The only thing was just the backing was there, but the melody I came up with.
But these are all these songs that you had already had half written whilst you were doing the first album.
Yeah, they were because it was we were performing as Amy a Go-Go. I think it went lo say me la so la. Was it? I can't remember. How's that go again? That's do re mi fast. It went fast. So la ti do a mi a go go. It was a bit like that. I kind of picked it up, and I thought I always thought it was a bit crap, and then it
going to make you a fortune in the end.
It became Rio. I was watching this. I was in Birmingham. I went to a little rest, like a cafe, and I was watching this very, very I couldn't take my eyes off the waitress who was the way she was moving around the floor, and that's where the lyric comes from. Moving on the floor now, baby, you're a bird of paradise. And it was this waitress in a Birmingham cafe who probably talked like this. And if she did, I'd have loved her.
How was the writing process, Simon? How was the writing process in the band? How does it ever develop? Because you've never sort of said, "Oh, this is written by Nick," or this is written by you.
Is. I mean, we.
How is it? How is the process?
There's a absolute an equality in the band. There's no band leader in Duran Duran. I mean, Nick wants he wants to look after. Nick and John like to look after the art side of things. I do a lot of the kind of the stuff that involves words. But there's no clear leader, and that means that everybody's involved at the writing level, and everybody participates financially as well. And so we go in the room, and one of the sort of the rules, which is that you don't go in with any preconceived ideas. You go with a really empty head, which can mean that things take time to get going. But when they do get going, you're really open to the inspiration, and you get really, I think you get very inspired writing that way.
Yeah, but what if someone does have a preconceived idea?
Well, you've just got to slip it in quietly.
Yeah.
Oh, look what I've just thought of.
Bishop said to the choir boy.
Oh no, I wanted to, because this choir boy thing, by the way, you mentioned, because I saw an old documentary of you, where you go back and you went and saw your old choir master.
Oh right, yes.
And he played a recording of when you were in the choir, and you were so hard on yourself. It's unbelievable. It's like it's almost like, oh no,
oh, it's funny.
There.
No,
I was thinking,
no,
mate, give yourself a break.
Oh, it was that one bit, and at the end of it, I was going, running out of breath.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, pushing that. Oh, there it goes.
It's like you're your nightmare dad.
Yeah, but it was very liberating to be able to say that in front of him. Because he was my choir master and greatest critic, and it was like, and I was kind of saying, I know how you would have heard that then. I know how you would have listened to it, and I know what you've picked up on. And he's such a wonderful person. Michael Turvey, I think he's an MBE. Michael Turvey, MBE. He's done so much for not just teaching kids how to sing, but so much for the church, so much for the community. He's an absolutely wonderful man.
Rio's so massive, and you're enormous. You're the new Beatles in America. You're just, I mean, everything has come your way. I think the hardest time to go and write is when you've achieved everything you need to achieve, and you've got to just keep the status quo. Yeah. That's the most difficult period in any band's career.
I know what you mean. I think we
do. You remember that?
What we do is we close off all of that other stuff. We close off to the so-called success. We close off to all kind of ideas of celebrity and fame and what all that means, and we just go back to music and lyrics.
But you did have quite a hard time on the next one, didn't you? That was Seven and the Ragged Tiger, wasn't it?
But I mean, the thing about us is that music comes to us very easily. Music, harmonic structures and melody, which is kind of my bit of it, that comes very easy. Words always take longer. And since Seven and the Ragged Tiger, that has always been the case, right up until the last album. But this one, we had the indulgence of lockdown, of a year of pandemic, for me to get my ducks in a row and actually get some decent words written down. Michael Hutchins always used to say to me, if you get writer's block, he says what I do. I'm not going to try and do his accent. He said, what I do is I just write anything that comes into my head, any old rubbish, any old crap. And if you carry on long enough, it starts to get good. And actually, there's something in that. There's something in the idea that you've got to get the stuff that you've got in the front of your mind that you've got to get it out before the better stuff has a chance to get through, because it's blocked.
Something like a pomegranate, for the writing stuff you saw on Get Back when was it Lennon suggests to George Harrison something like a pomegranate.
Yes.
No, but that's absolutely true. I think it's called The Artist's Way. There's a great book.
Somebody else was telling me about this the other day, and I said, I do that too.
It's stream of
consciousness. Well, I think of how you should write
writing.
every morning when you first get up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You should...
To get the crap out, throw it away.
For me, writing lyrics is always, I know I have to work a little bit longer than I really want to. So, because at the beginning it is all front brain consciousness, and then to get into the best stuff, you've got to really work through all that before it starts to come out. Have you ever though taken what you see as a fully written lyric into the band and said, look, I'd really like to try and work with this idea lyrically?
I've taken fully written songs into the band. I took Night Boat in. I took The Chauffeur in. But then they always get changed anyway, which is fair enough.
Is that by the band or by you? I was just wondering, singers' lyrics are essentially your department. Do you have sort of a veto on that? Or
on lyrics, yes, because it's my mouth that they have to come out of.
Right,
when we're recording and when we're on stage, more importantly. So I do say I can't see if there's somebody else comes up with words, which they don't all that much, to be honest with you. But Nick and John do have ideas lyrically, and sometimes they're something I'll be going, nah, I don't think so. But other times I go, wow, that's great. I like that. That's different. I'd have never come up with that idea myself. And that's what's nice. I don't really write much poetry. I do write little phrases and things, but I'm always thinking of songs. So it's I'm more likely to come in with a riff and a lyric than just a lyric on its own.
Right. Let's talk about that period when you kind of all did your own thing for a bit, which I remember at the time thinking, what the fuck?
Yeah.
They're in Duran Duran. Why do they want to be in Arcadia in the power station?
Well, it was Power Station started first. I think that had a lot to do with, that was very much, I think, Andy, his rock aspirations. And I think he and John was willing to go along with that with him. But I'm lazy, and I thought, I'll have a year off. I think I'll go and sail around the world. And then I got a call from Nick saying, we can't let them do this and not do anything ourselves. We'll have to do something, Charlie. I went, okay, all right then. So we went to Paris. Oh, we had a great time in Paris.
Well, and you had again, you called in some great musicians.
I know, extraordinary. Grace Jones, Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, I mean,
Dave Gilmour.
A somewhat underused David Gilmour, I would have said on that.
What do you mean? On that record?
Yeah.
Oh, we used. Sorry. We only had him for a short while, and everything he played we used.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have him for the whole album.
No, I know that.
Like I said, we had
the songs. He's on for like one or two songs,
Egan,
but even then,
Mark Egan on bass.
Yeah.
I mean, that was extraordinary. He just come.
And whose call was that? Who? Is this coming from you? Or is it coming from you? Right.
Alex Sadkin.
Oh, of course.
Because Alex was the producer. Phil Thornley came to begin with. He lasted 1 week, and he saw how things were going and how we were doing writing and recording, and he just disappeared one night. And it was like a Friday night, and he didn't come into the studio on Saturday. And then he left a note for Alex saying, I can see where this is going. It's not my cup of tea. I'm off. Or the light words. I don't blame him actually, because it was a long process, that one. But I also love that. I love the Power Station album as well. I really enjoy listening to that. That's got some fantastic.
Do you think, looking back though, that you should have ploughed on and made the next Duran album?
Because I think we would have fallen out in a different way had that been the case. There was all kinds of pressure on the band. There was pressure from the industry around us that was all kind of that we were kind of the cash cow in a way. Although I'm not saying that they only survived because of us. But we were the center, we were the hub of merchandising, record industry, a live industry. That was all centered around Duran Duran, and the management and the surrounding industry did not want us to do anything but do Duran Duran, and that put pressure on us. I think it was, in a way, it was us exercising our will not to just do what people wanted us to do and told us to do, and I think, and because there were tensions developing inside of the band, and it was a big break from that, and it was good to do something different,
Well, what's interesting is it's never happened since, and you've.
No, well, I think, but so we came back from. So we did Power Station and Arcadia, and then we got back and we did Notorious, and it wasn't quite as successful as the pre Power Station Arcadia Duran Duran was.
And then the next one was a bit less successful. You had lost two members, which is a big ask.
So it all seemed we kind of started to decline. And then we managed to pick it up with the wedding album, An Ordinary World and Come Undone, and which was such a surprise to us, So
you became a 90s band.
It was album. It was huge. It was huge. That whole thing. You were.
We made the album.
Yeah.
We made the album in Warren's front room in a small house in Battersea, and it was extraordinary. I mean, we've got to talk about Warren a little bit, I think. And Andy, everybody knows about Andy, but Warren he is an extraordinary talent, an extraordinary creative talent. He's almost too talented. I mean, I remember sort of what started off with great ideas towards the end of our time with Warren ended up with me coming to studio after bunking off for most of the week, and Warren going, "Oh, Charlie, we've done the chords, done the melody. All you have to do is write the words." And that really got to me. That did, because that's the hard bit. You mean I can't do the fun bit?
Yeah, exactly. You've had all the fun, yeah.
But he is, he's an extraordinary artist. He really is amazing.
Are you still in touch?
Yeah. Interestingly, I don't know if you know, but we've been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I did. We do know. Yes. And that's congratulations.
Which is quite big news. Now, I know that we probably stand a cat's chance in hell of actually getting inducted. But if we did get chosen to be inducted, it would mean going on stage with Warren and Andy.
Of course.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, and you'd probably have to do Ordinary World with Warren and do something else with Andy.
Maybe, but it's a fascinating situation, and I kind of hope. Well, of course, I hope we do get the induction.
But your relationship with Andy, how is?
I've always had a good relationship with Andy. Always. I've never.
Because I went to see that Get Back Together. I went to see that Get Back Together show in 2001, 2002.
Yeah, that.
When you had that brilliant introduction, which actually I think we probably semi-ripped off when we got back together, but where you all came out on stage one by one and stood at the front, just staring at the audience, all 5 members. And I remember coming, and I was filled with that strange mix of euphoria for what was going on and huge envy, So, but it became the driving force to get me to try and get my band back together again.
I love the fact that the bass. I saw it was Town and the Forum, wasn't it, when you played there?
Yes.
Yeah, I came to that.
Absolutely.
It was fantastic, and the bass was so fantastically loud. I just remember thinking, "Good lad,
well,
good
we
lad,
are
John.
We're
Off
a very
you go,
bass-driven
mate."
band, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I always say that it's the bass which gives me melody lines. It's always because the bass has so many harmonics. I hear so many notes when the bass is playing, and that's really what is the first thing that inspires me to come up with melodies, to find that what I call the golden path.
Ah, interesting. Funny enough, because John just recently got a Lifetime Achievement Award from Bass Magazine, and I was asked to say a few words about him, which I was very, very pleased to do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
No,
Us singers, we don't read Bass
absolutely.
Magazine,
Of course you don't. That's why I'm telling you, because for our listeners, because no one reads.
How was it? How did it feel for you though to get that 5 original members back together. Was that hard work to make that happen? Was that
I think everybody
sort of
wanted
situation
it to happen at that time? At the time, well, me and Nick and John were the kind of drivers of getting it happening. And it was getting Roger and Andy on board was what we saw as being the tricky part. But I think that they were at a stage in their lives where it made complete sense to do it, and it was, you know, they needed it to, you know, me and John and Nick kept Duran Duran in our lives, or kept being in Duran Duran for a long time, and they kind of stopped in the mid 80s. So 15 years we kind of got used to it, but they hadn't had it. And I think if I was them, I'd have wanted it very much too.
Because at one point it was just you and Nick, wasn't it?
It went down to me and Nick in 97. Yeah.
Duran.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we hung on. You know, there's never not been a Duran Duran since 1980.
Do you feel, obviously a lot of your audience and a lot of our audience and various pop bands, to use that term, of that period were female dominated audience. The audience was female dominated.
Yeah. Now the artists are female.
And
but the front people.
That's right. That's right. But there is that feeling in music that female fans can be more fickle, and pop fans especially, and can move from you to another band. Or is there that sense? I suppose there's 2 questions here. One, is there the sense that these guys have always been there to support you and are still there? Has your audience grown at all? But also, how did you feel? Was there ever that moment thinking, I just want to be taken seriously as a musical band and not just as pretty kids?
I think as a band, we used to come out of a show go, oh, most guys yet, you know.
All right.
And then that changed, and then sort of so now we go on, and it's like most girls yet now, because where it used to be girls that followed us, it's sort of over the years you find the guys have come out of from under the shadow of the girls, and they're the ones who sort of follow us now.
I actually there's a quote I remember of Nick's from like back in the mid 80s, and it was someone levelling the accusation of being a teeny bop band, and Nick said something brilliant. He just said, little girls are cool, little girls discovered the Beatles.
Yeah. The men don't know, but the little girls understand.
Because I think that's what the balance in the band has always been, so why it's been so successful is because you've got the, you know, I love Nick, you know, he's a great friend of mine, but the absolute artiness of Nick, and what he brings to the party, people from Japan that you've never heard of, you know, and then you, John, you know, John has always been.
Hang on, I brought Chai to the new album. That was me.
Well, we were talking about that earlier, Guy and I. About how about your collabs on this album.
How all new artists have sort of these mad names.
Collabs that I had, it's like that. No one has normal names anymore. They're not called. No, and it goes so featuring
Velour,
featuring John. You know, it's.
You
know, Tool Velour.
Velour. I mean, she's amazing. Well, she's a big star.
Ivorian Doll.
Ivorian Doll is. She. Her and Chai are 2 artists that I'd come across in my work for the radio show, actually, and they are incredible. I mean, Chai, the energy that they brought to that song that saved it from going in the bin. Kind of likewise, Ivorian Doll, actually. You know, Hammerhead was heading into the bin, I think, before she got on it.
So how does it work? Do you make the call and they come in and then you say, what tracks do you like? Or we've got this one in mind? Or?
Well, they were all a bit different, really. The one with More Joy. Well, More Joy and Hammerhead, we approached the artists, both Chai and Ivorian Doll, with that song and said, we'd like you to do something on this song. Whereas Tout Velo, that was a completely different situation, because it was that somebody sent a list of artists who Duran Duran ought to collaborate with to the management, and management sent it to us, and there's a great long list, and it was a bit stupid actually, because it had things like Justin Bieber and what's her name, Taylor Swift at the top. We thought, yeah, sure. Adele, yeah, right. And
can you get Brad Pitt in the video?
And exactly, yeah. And sort of down the list, we saw Tove Lo, and John and I both went, oh, we've seen her, because we actually stood side stage and watched her at Lollapalooza in Sao Paulo, when we did that festival. And we said, well, at least we know who she is, and she's actually pretty good, and we've got a connection there. So we actually decided to send something to her, and the record company, in their wisdom, or management in their wisdom, sent the entire demo album, every song, all of the music. And it was like, oh no, when I found out that, I thought that's the wrong way to do it. And of course, and she came back with, she wanted to be on Give It All Up, which I thought was finished. I thought, no, it's me. I've done that. I don't want to share the vocal on that with anybody. And then Nick said, well, do you think maybe you can just kind of convince her to sing on something else? I said, no. If she's made her mind up that she wants to sing on that song, there's no way we're going to change her mind. She's just going to say, oh, well, I won't do it then. So I said, let's just see what she does when she sends what she can do on the demo. Let's see if we like it. And she sent back this demo. It was fantastic, and I realized at that point that I have to write another verse for me to sing on. It was brilliant.
Because I guess you did it remotely.
We did everything remotely except for obviously Graham, who's in the room writing with us, and Ivorian Doll, who lives in she lives up City Road, I think.
Oh, you've ruined it now. I mean,
sorry.
Seriously, Ivorian Doll should have come from
the Ivory Coast.
World.
Well, she does. I mean, I think her family is from the Ivory Coast. Her family's from the Ivory Coast, but if you listen to her, she's all, I'm leaking from my STDs and stuff like that. She's very funny. Her lyrics are very funny, and she's very London, and that's what I wanted. I wanted that kind of, what they call multicultural London. Mm-hmm. But really, it's like modern London rap, and I wanted that on the record. I wanted that sound, and I thought it would really benefit that song in particular.
Sorry, guys.
No, you go. I was just going to say,
everyone seems to be very into doing featured artists now. Is it a thing that keeps you in feeling contemporaneous?
Not particularly. Contemporaneous because we've got collaborations on the record.
With younger artists.
But interestingly, this is a feature of music generally. If you look at the top 20, all the records are this, featuring this, featuring. Yeah.
And it spreads to social media.
Well, I think that's the kind of, it's trying to double the power of your social media and your pull, really, your appeal. And that's the way that the industry thinks about it. But of course, we think about what's going to make a song sound good. And okay, all right, we've got to do collaboration. But then as soon as you find the right one, and if you put enough time in, and you just don't go for somebody because they've got a big name or they've got the right name, and actually help them do it as well, which we did with all of them, then you end up with something that you're invested in, and you think, wow, that is great. It's better than we could have done on our own.
And what you haven't done is go down that sort of route of being pushed out to Sweden to meet Max Martin and get him to write the album for you.
Right, yes.
You're still a writing force.
I mean, that's not going to happen with us but we love the writing stage. That's the most, in a way, it's the purest, but also the most satisfying part of the job. When you come up with that melody or that phrase, that lyric that really does it perfectly, you think, oh God, I love that feeling. I mean, when you listen back to the demo and the hairs come up on the back of your neck, it's an incredible feeling, and only music does it. Only music can inspire this sort of passion in me, for sure. I love it. I've always loved it, and I feel so lucky to still have it this far in.
Simon, this is absolute perfect time to end as well, and thank you and congratulations on the new album. You know, I mean, last time I saw you was at Pete Tong's award event.
Yes,
and you were very nervous because you wanted your album to do well, and I think the day after it went in at number 3, and I thought about you when I saw that chart position and how thrilled you must have been. And congratulations on the nomination.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
You.
I'll vote for you. Don't worry, I'm on the list.
Thank you guys for still being around, still making music, still being into it, and doing this podcast. It's fabulous.
Oh, thank you very much, Simon.
Mate, one last question. Where does whoosh come from?
It's the sound. Well, it started off as the sound of the receiver heading towards the cradle. So whoosh, bang, but it became the sound of your mind expanding to take on a new idea.
Because I've got lovely texts from you on my phone.
Yes,
you always just put whoosh at the end of it.
It's my sign off. It's my tag. Alrighty.
Well,
thanks for chatting. Lovely to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lovely way to wrap it up.
That is indeed a lovely way to wrap it up. And what a lovely chat that was. And what nice things he said at the end.
Yeah, he's such a generous man, isn't he now?
Yeah.
You know, very, very mature. It was so nice having his version of events, walking into that room with his book of lyrics, you know, and if you, as I said earlier, if you look back, you can listen to John telling you his side of the story on one of our earlier podcasts.
Yeah.
And of course, I forgot to mention we had Lowell Creme on, who, you know.
Of course.
Lowell Cream?
Lowell Cream.
Why do I say creme? I'm obviously.
It sounds like it should be creme when it's on its own, but then godly and creme doesn't work, does it?
What about Pratt and Kemp? Does that work?
Pratt and few things work, I say.
Of course we work. Of course it works.
Yes.
It works brilliantly, and long may it continue.
Well, indeed. Oh my God, that was the most radio presentery thing you've ever said. I really felt like just the way you said it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it must be. I've got my 80s head on. This is my Peter Powell head. You could be Simon Bates.
I'm good, thanks.
Right. So, until next week.
All right, pop pickers.
It's good night from me.
And it's good night from all of us.